For those that have not followed me all the way through this process, I did not bore these cylinders. What I had done is, using the methodology at Uncle Tony's garage, what I ended up using was a three-legged hone with the straight legs, honed it out, and then basically looked at the hone marks to see did I have any surfaces that weren't being hit by the hone, which would indicate an out of roundness condition. And I also ridge reamed the top of the cylinder. So basically what I'm attempting to do here is to reuse the piston rods and the pistons without having to take everything apart. This is, I'm being maybe a little cheap or a little frugal, call it what you want. But I didn't want to do any machine work that wasn't necessary. This is a budget build, and it's meant to be as close to what came out of the factory as came out of the factory. So again, using as many of the original components as possible. So if you're wondering why I got taper and increasing gap in the rings, it's because I didn't bore the cylinders. Okay. Thanks for your understanding. Okay, so to do the initial gap measurements, I've got a standard set or standard bore for 4.000 bore set of piston rings, and what I'm going to do is measure this. This will be the top ring, so I'm going to be measuring the full stroke of the top ring, which basically starts at about 3/8 of an inch from the top, or approximately 3/8 inch from the top of the deck, and then I'm going to go down from there 3.5 inches, because the stroke is 3.48 for the 350, so 3.5 but we'll approximate that. So I've got those, both of those marks marked on here. So there's the 3/8, and there's 3.75, which is pretty much 3/8 added to 3.5, a little less, close enough. So so I'll insert the ring, squeeze the bottom here, and then put it in, and I'm going to get it approximately 3/8 of an inch, and I'm going to use my piston to do that. And what I'm doing is aligning the bottom of this first ring land with the top of the deck. So I just put it in and make sure that it's basically square, so I'm not getting any pinch on the end gap. That looks about right, and then I'm just going to verify it using the ruler. No, that's got to come up. So I'm going to pull it up a little bit. All the way around. I don't know why that piston was so far off. Maybe it's the pressure of doing video. Try one more time. Oh, I was on the bottom. I was on the bottom of the second land. Let's see. Just verify one more time. Come up. Come up. And all right. So that is approximately where the piston ring will be on the top of its stroke. And then I use my feeler gauges. I'm going to start for this one. I'm going to start at about 22 and move my way up. I've already done the even bank, so the pistons 2 through 8, 2, 4, 6, and 8, and I got a kind of an idea of where this starts. So here I am with 022. That went in pretty well. Try 023. And yep, that goes in too. So now I'll do 024. Yep, 024 goes in. All right. And finally, 025. All right, 025 does not go in easily. So it's 024 is the metric at the top, or the measurement at the top. I'm going to write that down on my paper off to the side here. So this is at the top of the cylinder. So that's 024. And then I'm going to take the piston again, and I've marked on my piston, or my connecting rod, how far that's got to go down in to the cylinder. So I'll just do that and use that as my my centering tool and my how far in does it got to go tool. There. And then I'll verify it with my engineering scale. Such a pretty thing. Yeah, so that is even all around. Okay, so I'm good there. So the next thing I'm going to do is measure the bottom, and we'll see how that does. And I'm going to again start at 022, as you can see, and then I'm going to see if 022 goes in. It's a little harder to reach down deep. All right, nope, 022 doesn't go. Let's go to there's 021, 020. Let's go 021. Nope, that didn't go. 02. Nope. Okay, so I'm going to go to 19. Pull out 19 and 18. 19 barely starts, and then 18. Yeah, 18 goes down all the way. A little tight, but it goes down all the way. So the bottom measurement is 18. So I've got on that piston, I go from an end gap of 24 to 18 or 018. So I've got a overall ring gap difference top to bottom of 6 thousandths, and taper changes by factor of 3. So I've got a 2 thou taper going from 3 3/4 inches down the bore to 3/8 of an inch down the bore. So not terrible, but now I've got to be able to set up my rings. I'm going to do a 16 thou ring gap at the bottom. That means add 6. I'm going to have a 22 inch or 0.022 gap at the top. And in order to do that, I can't use the rings I bought. I got to go, I've sourced another set of rings. It's a 5 thousandths over ring, so it's a 4.005 set. And I'll be, I've got basically 9 thousandths to play with to go from the 5 thousandths. Well, I'll show it to you on a graph. But I can grind down 9 thousandths before I'm in the range of the 000 rings. So I've taken measurements on all of the cylinders. I'm going to capture all that information in a chart, and I'll show you what I'm going to be doing for my ring gaps as I go through. I found the information for a minimum ring end gap on the Hastings piston ring website, showed at the bottom of the page. In my application, this engine is going to be used on the street. It's not going to be taken to a drag strip or anything like that. So It also, so I'm looking at the first line of this chart. I have a cast piston in this application, and given that information, the top piston ring end gap will be 16 thousandths, the middle piston ring end gap will be 18 thousandths, and the oil rail will have a minimum of 15 thousandths. I found the information for the effective ring gaps with taper or size change from the Engine Builder magazine link showed at the bottom of this page. The graphic also came from that website. Essentially, as a cylinder diameter changes every 1/1000th of an inch, the ring gap will increase 3 times of that. So for every thousandths change, it'll be a 3 thousandths ring gap change. Based upon that, looking at the changes in my bores, I've had increases in ring gaps from 7 thousandths up to 13 thousandths. So the bore change, you can look at it backwards as well. 7 divided by 3 is a 2 thousandth increase, and 13 divided by 3 is about a 4 thousandths increase. So the wear on my engine is between 2 and 4 thousandths, and it's variable going from the bottom of the cylinder to the top of the cylinder. So that also is kind of the range of the taper in this engine as well. So what's the maximum ring end gap for the engine that I'm building? And it may be similar to what you're building. I found this information at the Speed Pro Piston Rings website shown below. And they did some tests, some basic tests. They're looking at ring gaps set at 24 thousandths, 16 thousandths, and 10 thousandths, and just making comparisons with how much blow-by and how much horsepower changes occurred. The bigger the end gap is, the more blow-by you're going to get, the less horsepower as well. So unfortunately, there's also a downside of if you have the ring gaps too small. And in this case, they had a third test at 10 thousandths, and basically the end gaps butted together. So if you do not have any taper in your bores, then you don't have to ask this question. Whatever you set the end gap is going to be the end gap through the entire bore. For me, though, since I've got 2 thousandths in taper, what we'll see, and it's variable between cylinders. What we'll see is I'm going to be setting the minimum end gap at 16 thousandths for the top ring, and and that's measured at the bottom of the bore. As you go up the bore, it's going to get wider, and the ring gaps for this engine will be at the top of the bore will be as small as 18 thousandths, which is pretty good, and up to 24 thousandths, which isn't great, but in general we're in the 18 to 22 thousandths range. So it's going to work. It may not be providing the maximum output it can do, but this is again a car that's going to be just driven around the street and not taken to a drag strip or anything like that. So I'm satisfied with the performance that is going to come out of this engine, even though we're going maybe not in an optimal direction here. This chart shows the measured data I got from the engine. What you're looking at here is the data is organized by cylinder number, and if you look at the red block at the top, I've organized the data as I took the data. I measured the driver's side 1, 3, 5, and 7 cylinders first, and then the passenger side 2, 4, 6, and 8 second. And I organized it this way so that I didn't mess up the data as I was taking it. So it just makes it easier to take the data. The first two rows are the end gaps at the top of the cylinder and at the bottom of the cylinder. And when I mean top of the cylinder, that is 3/8 inch down the bore, and at the bottom that's 3 3/4 inches down the bore to basically simulate the stroke of the engine, which is 3.48 inches. The next line is basically the change in the end gap, which is just calculated between the difference between the top and the bottom cylinder, and the estimated taper, which is essentially the end gap change divided by 3 between the top and the bottom of the cylinder. The fourth line down is the file fit to the end gap. So that's, I'm doing 16 thousandths, and the resulting top end gap that will occur as that piston ring moves up the cylinder. So that's based upon the differences in the measurement or the change in the end gap. The last one, the last row is the amount of material that I'll have to file off. And that's estimated based upon, I'll be using 5 thousandths rings or 4.005 rings that'll be filed to fit. Those rings are about 9.5 thousandths longer circumferentially. So I have to take that additional 9 thousandths into account. So it's, that is the amount of material I'll be taking off the 4.005 rings in order to achieve the file fit of 16 thousandths at the bottom of the bore. I hope that makes sense. If not, please leave messages or on YouTube, and I'll answer anything that I can.